Can a minivan be replaced by this electric cargo bike? That's the question of today's video. Hey everyone, I'm Tom, and it's e-bike month here on Shifter, a channel about urban cycling, bike commuting, and the ways we get around our cities. And today we're going to test if one of the main selling features of an electric cargo bike is true. If you like this video, please consider subscribing for more content like this. Did you know back in 1983, automotive company Chrysler was on the verge of bankruptcy when then CEO Lee Iacocca had this idea? He thought he would shrink down the white panel vans of the day, which at that time were mostly used by plumbers and electricians and pedophiles, into something that would fit into a typical suburban garage. Voila, a new generation of desperately uncool minivans was created.
Brand new Dodge Caravan or Plymouth Voyager.
Today, another transformation in urban transportation is happening, and it's because of these cargo bikes, and specifically electric cargo bikes. If you've ever met the owner of one of these bikes, you've probably heard the story. I sold my minivan, I bought this bike, and my life is better for it. And so today, that's what we're testing. Is this actually the next generation of family vehicle? And so today I am donning my Suburban Dad uniform because we're going to run this bike through 3 Suburban Dad minivan tasks. We're going to take it to Costco. We're going to go to hockey practice because we're in Canada and that's what we do with the kids. And we're going to go on a picnic. And stick around to the end because we're going to do some of the finances. We're going to check the math to see if an electric cargo bike really does stack up against a minivan. So the idea of shopping at a Costco like this doesn't exactly align with the idea of a walkable, bikeable city. I mean, look around here, this ocean of cars is like a nightmare of car centricity. I actually checked Google Maps before I came here, and the closest home where someone lives is like a 35-minute walk, and you have to run across the highway to get here. But the reality is this is where a lot of us live these days, and if you want to make a bike like this work, this is the kind of thing you're going to have to do. So the question is, does it work? Well, I did a video a couple months ago in which I used this bike to load up a week's worth of groceries from a regular grocery store, and that was no problem at all. So I am not that worried about this bike being able to handle a Costco run. And in fact, this is no sweat at all loading it up. I think you'd probably still have room for your kid in here. So far so good. Let's see what it's like to ride with this thing now. So a big thanks before we go on to Riese Muller, not only for providing this amazing bike, but for sponsoring e-bike month here at Shifter. We've got a lot of great content coming up, so please stay tuned. Riese Muller didn't have any requests on content. They just wanted to support, so that's really great. The only thing they asked was that I wear a helmet, which seemed entirely reasonable. So thanks, Riese Muller, and please check out the link to them down in the description below. Okay, so riding with all of these groceries from Costco was kind of a treat, actually. I've done that trip a few times in the past, never with an electric cargo bike. And this was so much easier. There's a big hill coming out of there, and I was like rolling up that hill at 25 kilometers an hour, barely breaking a sweat. So the pedal assist on a bike like this is pretty amazing. So not only does it just make it easier to ride, I think that sort of ease of the burden would make you more likely to use a bike like this. So I know sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, I've got to ride to Costco today. But when you've got the e-bike, it just makes it that much easier to say yes to using your bike. So that's really good. So for the Shifter Urban, what did I call it? The Shifter Suburban Minivan Challenge. I forget what I named this video, but something like that. I have a score. I'm going to measure these things on 4 scales. One is convenience. And taking this bike to Costco was pretty convenient, but it is a big machine. It's hard to navigate in a car-centric parking lot with a not well-placed bike rack. So it could be more convenient, but that's less to do with this bike, although it's not the most maneuverable, but more to do with Costco. But I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. For ease of transportation, it's just so easy to throw stuff in the back of this that's really convenient. And there is room for kids in there too, I think. And if you fill it up, it has a pretty solid rack back here too, in my beloved two-wheel gear bag back there, so you can put extra stuff there. So for ease of transportation with that pedal assist, I'm gonna give it, we'll say, an 8 out of 10. For ease of hauling, I've never had a bike that's so easy to haul heavy loads. This one was it's just a breeze. I can't believe once you get rolling how easy it is to carry heavy loads. So I'm giving that a 9 out of 10. And for the Suburban Dad quality score, which is the subjective measure on this bike, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 too. It just feels really good to roll into Costco when all these cars are around and I can just sort of sneak in and out with my cargo bike. So that's a good score. All right, that is the Costco challenge and we are moving on from there. For the next challenge, we're doing the most quintessential Canadian thing, and I also chose this because people always say this in Canada, you can't ride your bike to take your kid to hockey practice, but we are taking our kid to hockey practice. However, I couldn't convince any of my friends with kids this age to lend one to me. Like, they just seemed opposed to the idea of putting their kid on the internet for thousands of strangers to muck. What's with parents these days? Anyway, so this is the kid. We'll call this Riker. How about Riker? That's a good name, right? So this little Riker's got to go to hockey practice today. And so we've got the equipment, we've got the stick, and we are heading off to the arena. We made it to the arena, hence snow in summertime. So how did it go? So what do we name him? Riker? Little Riker's a little squished in there, but you could definitely make use of this to get to hockey practice. There's plenty of room. When Riker gets older, he can ride his own bike alongside. You still have room for all the equipment, plus anything else. So pretty good, pretty good. He's a little worse he's looking a little green, but that's not from the ride. The ride is nice and smooth. All right, so in taking your kids to hockey, on convenience, I'll give it like a 6 out of 10. It's a little squished in there, but still a great ride. And also, you're not going to get stuck in traffic on the way because you can avoid cars with the bike lanes. Ease of transportation, pretty great. This bike is so smooth. I've yet to encounter any problem riding it. Ease of hauling, yes, lots of room in there. This one's a bit squished, so I'll give that maybe a 7 out of 10. And the Suburban Dad quality score, I'm going to give this an 8 because I think you would be the talk of the hockey team here in Canada showing up in the winter in your e-cargo bike. And I know some people will say, you can't ride your bike in winter, but for those of you who say that, I've got a whole playlist for you to watch and a book about winter cycling for you to read. You can absolutely ride in wintertime. Taking your kids to hockey is absolutely feasible in an electric cargo bike. Okay, let's move on to the next challenge. Okay, before we do our last Suburban minivan cargo bike challenge, we're going to take a little detour. And we've got a special guest here to talk about how you can fit a cargo bike like this into your life, financially and otherwise.
Nice socks.
Oh, thank you, thank you. The Suburban Dad uniform is actually pretty comfortable. I highly recommend it. Okay, now the sun comes out. Well, thanks for coming today, Cailynn. So, you guys know Cailynn. She's been on a couple of times. I invite Cailynn whenever I have questions that are too complex for my brain to get around. So thank you for doing this. But the reason I invited you on today is because you mentioned to me that you've been considering buying a cargo bike for your family. So what's going on? What are you thinking about there?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about our current situation. We've been a one-car family for about 8 years. Ever since my partner Darren and I moved in together, we each had a vehicle, and it was pretty easy to downsize to one. And part of what's made that work here in Calgary is just living centrally. We're close to a train station, so we can walk or bike or train year-round.
Yeah.
And then we have kept a car because we do use it a lot on weekends for trips out of the city, out to the mountains.
Yeah, so what's making you think about a cargo bike?
Yeah, so we had a baby 2 years ago and have sort of been able to continue our biking lifestyle so far. So the big thing is that we are moving. We are moving to the suburbs.
To the suburbs, oh, okay. And so that's changing kind of the equation for everything.
Yeah, so not exactly
it's not really the suburbs. Yeah,
it's about 3 kilometers north of where we are, sort of centrally located right now.
Yeah.
But it is up a really big hill. And so yeah, we're sort of expecting how we move around the city is going to shift.
So your family's growing, your circumstances are changing, and you want to keep the bike life going. One thing I need to ask you though is about cost, because there's no two ways around it. Cargo bikes are expensive. This bike, all tricked out the way it is, it's close to like $15,000 Canadian, which is often the cost of a car or a minivan. So how are you considering working that into your budget? I know you've done some of the math on this. What have you learned?
Yeah, so that's sort of exactly what we've been mulling over is sort of the big cost that does come with a cargo bike. And from what I've sort of looked into and discovered, I think it really depends on your current situation. I think the big thing is if a cargo bike is what can enable you to ditch a vehicle, whether that's going from 2 to 1 or 1 to 0, the financials are definitely in your favor. So I'll sort of walk through that with you a little bit more using me as an example. If I were to sell my car, so let's talk a little bit about that as well as just sort of the cost of car ownership. Do you have any idea how much it costs you a year to drive your car?
To drive a car? Okay, can I guess?
Yes.
I'm going to say like 10 grand a year. If you include gas, insurance, the cost of the car, 10,000 bucks a year?
Yeah. So it's going to depend again on each individual situation.
Sure.
But yeah, there's a sort of easy calculator you can use online from the Canadian Automobile Association. So enter your vehicle, make and model, the province you live in, all of that. And yeah, it covers gas, maintenance, license and registration, insurance, as well as depreciation. And so for my case, I drive a used car, a 2014. And I don't drive it a ton. I would say we average about 10,000 kilometers a year. So when I enter in all of those numbers, I'm around $5,500 a year is just the cost of driving.
Right, okay. For an older car that isn't used that much, that seems
Yeah. So on the lower
yeah.
end, that's not including parking. We don't have car payments and interest. Fuel cost in Alberta is a little bit less. So yeah, $10,000.
So if you buy a brand new Tesla, that equation would change a lot.
For sure. So again, if we were sort of going to say like, let's get rid of our car, sell it, I think that's where e-bike makes so much sense, because we could sell our car probably for around $10,000, add in that $5,500 we're going to save every year, and that sort of covers your cost of the bike.
So like in theory, in 1 year, you might be able to cover the cost of the bike itself.
Yeah, and so there are still sort of costs to operate the e-bike, as you say, smaller than a vehicle. And on that note, I do love there was detailed sort of calculations from a mom in Edmonton, a mom of 4 who recently went car-free. Her handle is at Mummy Pedals on Twitter. And so she actually did the math when they switched and sort of calculated what she actually spent on transportation. So bike maintenance, taking transit and taxis, even renting a car for family vacations. And she shared her totals on Twitter. So with the cargo bike, that transportation cost was about $2,000 a year, whereas with the vehicle, it was about $10,000 a year. So in their case, with the family of 4, it was sort of net savings right away of $8,000 a year.
So even going from a 2-car family, which is pretty common here, down to a 1-car family, seems even like pretty achievable, hey?
Yeah. My sort of conclusion here is that I already love biking, and I want to sort of continue to lead that lifestyle with kids, and given sort of our changes, moving, I think an e-cargo bike looks like the best way to continue to make that possible, even with that big price.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for sharing. I know there is like sticker shock sometimes with cargo bikes because the upfront cost is so much. So thank you for that context. It really puts things into perspective and makes it seem a little more achievable, even in a city like this that is still new in its journey towards bike friendliness. Great. Thanks, Cailynn.
Sure.
Okay, we're off to the final challenge of the Shifter Electric Cargo Bike Challenge, the Friend Picnic Challenge. Okay, we made it to the picnic.
We did.
So I'd say if you're thinking about a cargo bike as a picnic option, you can haul a lot of stuff or a friend. How was it as a passenger experience?
It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
It was fun being driven around.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, if the original question of this video is, can an electric cargo bike replace your minivan? I would say it passed the Costco challenge easily. It did pretty great on the driving your kid to hockey practice challenge. And picnic, it's a breeze. It's a great picnic vehicle. And as for the score on this challenge, well, since cargo bikes and picnics seem to go together like peanut butter and jam, I'm scoring this 9s across the board. So hopefully that was helpful to you if you're thinking about a cargo bike or trying to think about how it fits into your life or whether it can be a car replacement. I hope that was helpful. Thank you, Cailynn, again for joining us and bringing all your smarts with you. And thanks all to you for watching. We'll see you next time.